And we're going to cover a different type of investing, one that I have not covered on my channel before. And my computer decides to mess up right now when we're doing that, of course. So I invest in real estate. I reached financial freedom by buying buy and hold real estate. I self-manage 18 rental units. It takes me about 2 hours a month. And I'm always fascinated to hear that there are other ways of investing where some things sound better. And I'll be honest, Jared, some things sound a little worse. So can you just, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I'm going to give people a chance as they jump in to put questions in the comments to ask you live today in this video, questions about co-living investing. The elevator pitch. You meet somebody and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" And you say, "I invest in co-living." And they say, "What's that? What is that?"
It's the rent by room model, simply put. So basically, instead of renting out the entire house to, say, a long-term rental, single family, you rent out each room, right? And it's lucrative. So if you try to pencil out, and for both the members, I'll say members, and you, so it's a way for people to catch up on bills. Like, for example, I have a nurse. She makes quite a bit of money, but she's living in one of my co-living houses as a member to save up to buy a house, because we charge around 200 a week, so say 800 a month, which in that area, which is Arizona, a studio is going to cost you at the cheapest 1,200, and your first and last, and deposit, and your own, and I pay utilities and internet, so it's a good way to save money for the member as well.
So I've heard of the rent by the room before, and I've got a friend, Todd Baldwin, who lives close to me here in Seattle, and he does rent by the room, and he's got some, really good strategies and tactics to improve tenant retention, rent increases, those kind of things, or how to get rents where they want them when he moves somebody in. But I've never heard him talk about not having tenants, which is kind of why I wanted to bring you on. Because what he does is he just signs a lease with somebody where they rent that space for a year for $1,000 a month. What is the difference between a member and a tenant?
So the difference between a member and a tenant, think of it like the gym, right? When you go to the gym, you have a gym membership, right? So you join the gym and you have a membership. Now that's for a month, I believe, at a time. This is a week at a time with the initial 30-day commitment. So in the umbrella of co-living, there's many different ways of slicing up that pie. Some people do the annual lease, some people do 6 months at a premium, some do 3 months at even more of a premium, or month to month. But what we're doing is we're leveraging a third-party company for property management that does it week to week. And it's a 30-day commitment. So you can essentially, I believe they do that for one, so you have some skin in the game, but also for legal reasons. If you do under 30 days, I think you're a short-term rental, and you may fall into some of the short-term rental laws.
All right. So you're trying not to fall into the short-term rental laws. And if you have members, not tenants, how would an eviction look like? What happens if somebody says, "I don't want to pay and I'm not moving out"?
So if somebody stays 31 days in the area that I'm in, then this is interesting. This has happened twice so far as I know in the state that I'm in, and they've won both cases. But eviction would follow the same process as the depending on when you evict. If it's under 31 days, then it's a different process, which I haven't done. But if it's over 31 days, you'd follow the same legal process that you would for a regular tenant.
Okay.
Which I haven't done one, by the way. So
fair enough. And there's a question from Elizabeth here that I'm going to get to in just a second. So if it's over 31 days, it would be a regular eviction. And they're members, not tenants. And you're co-living, I know you have one in Arizona. Is that where they all are? Or
yeah, I have 3 in Arizona. Yeah.
3 in Arizona. And I don't know Arizona's laws. Some states say you can't evict without cause. It has to be you're moving in, or you're going to renovate the property, or you're going to sell the property. Is it that way in Arizona?
I don't know.
Okay. So something to look into if you ever wanted to not renew someone's lease because they were a problem person.
Yeah, I say
Elizabeth,
31 days because 30 is the cutoff for the you technically become a tenant. I think it's something along those lines. But under 30, you didn't reach that tenant status. Um,
fair enough. Elizabeth asks, does the investor or the owner pay for all utilities other than rent? What else does the tenant pay?
the tenant pays the set fee, which is just the rent. So we pay utilities, Wi-Fi included, all of that.
All right. Do you allow pets?
So no, unless they're a service animal. And I did have a guy tell me that he had an emotional cat, but that's not a service animal, and he didn't fill the paperwork out properly. So I can't imagine having a cat running around the house.
Fair enough. Yeah, especially with multiple roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah. That emotional service animal thing is very tricky for landlords to navigate because you can go to a website and print out the form. And
Which he did, and he had coffee spilt on it too. Very professional.
Nice.
But
Awesome. Very professional.
he didn't fill out the paperwork properly, so I had an out.
Love it. What's the biggest challenge with finding properties that will work for co-living situations?
Well, right. So backing up a little bit. So I started in August of last year, which some people would say, right now it's really hard to find properties, which is 100% true. I think in many markets, unless you're in Austin, I guess. The hardest part, if you can even find properties, because I'm buying off the MLS and off market. Two were purchased on the MLS, one off market so far, is parking. Well, square footage and parking price, of course, neighborhoods. So most of the people that are doing what I'm doing are buying in C-class neighborhoods. I have a really similar but different strategy. There's multiple facets to this, which we won't get into all of them, tax reasons and financial and long-term goals and all that. But the initial house, my buy box, I'll just give you the buy box, 2,000 square feet or better, non-HOA, no pool, plenty of parking. That's my normal buy box. And I would have told you up until last month, single story. But I bought a 2-story because it was a good deal. And we put a brand new AC unit on. The reason for the 2-story not liking it is I didn't want the noise complaints of people upstairs, but also AC, the heat, Arizona, that kind of thing. So we put a brand new 5-ton unit on that thing. But yeah, so the biggest challenge for finding properties is finding any properties, but finding properties that pencil out. And, oh, by the way, I buy properties only if I can make them pencil as a long-term rental, even though these cash flow 3x or 2.5, what a long-term rental will do. But for me, and that means I have to put a significant amount down in some cases. And so I know that doesn't fit the norm, but we've had to put large, 30% down payments on one of these, 25 on one and 30 on another, because I'm using the DSCR loans. So
I prefer to do, so I did one duplex at 5% down owner occupied to get my feet in the water because I was broke and in a lot of bad debt that I didn't know about. After that, I've done 20 or 25%. I don't like low down payments. I like starting out with a good equity position, being able to handle if rents ever go down, even though they never have. Josh points out that co-living is smart for tenants who want to save money and smart for landlords who potentially want to make more cash flow. So I like that I would go at least break even on long term. So you're not going to lose money if the regulation changes or something and you're stuck with it and can't do co-living. I think there's one other metric I would look at if I was going to do it, and this is I get from that Todd Baldwin who does the by the room, is so you got parking. That's a big one. Our friend Chester, right? The wealth building journey, wants to do the rent by the room co-living, and parking has been the thing that blew up a couple of deals he was looking at making offers on. But I would want to go and look at bedroom to bathroom count. I don't know that you're ever going to find a 5-bedroom, 5-bath as easy as you would think, but I would want 2 or 3 bathrooms for 3 or 4 bedrooms. So you have the least amount of actual people sharing. And then there's a question here from Josh too. This is the same question I have with Todd, and Todd does the same thing. Do you pay for housekeeping in common areas? I've heard that helps with tenants are messy.
yes, twice a month. I have an awesome cleaning lady. I went through 5 cleaning ladies to get to her. So it took some time, but we found Paola, she's wonderful. She does all my houses, and I've mentioned her so often to all the other investors. Not everyone, but a large percentage of the co-living investors in my area use her, and she likes me.
Well, it's one of the reasons to get to know the local investors in your area. Millennial Mike talks about that often. If you're going to invest out of state in another area, people talk about their property manager, their handyman, their contractor, their agent. And I'm like, no, no, no. Those other investors are your best resource. Who's the handyman that they recommend, and their cleaning services, especially if you're going to do short-term, midterm, or something where you have turnover or shared living space, or landscaping or any of that that you can do. Your resource is the other investors.
Can I share something real quick?
Yes.
I purposely purchased houses or changed the landscaping to rock, so that way I wouldn't have to mow lawns and that kind of things. Weeds. I can't believe that Arizona is hot as hell and there's weeds. And so I still have that cost for the landscaping to take care of the weeds. And palm trees. It's another one. It's like, I didn't think of that.
So one of my brothers runs a tree service in towards the high desert in Southern California. And one of the biggest influx of work that they get is just before spring. Everybody gets this notice from the fire department that they have to bring the weeds back from your house. And then just after the deadline in April, everybody gets their first fines for not having the weeds brought back. So he's got two big chunks he could basically go hire 5 and 10 man crews and work them all day, every day for a month.
Wow.
And so Arizona is very similar because yeah, it's desert, but those weeds can be a thing. When I lived in 29 Palms, I did the same thing. I had a gravel yard and I got a push mower, the ones with the spinning wheels.
Yeah, I love those.
Hit the other color of the rocks and left it out there on the rocks. That was my mower for my rock yard. Smart, because landscaping can be an issue, especially that. I like that you don't have a pool for co-living. That seems like it would be a problem. I know that a lot of people with rentals in Arizona do have pools, especially for short or midterm. But for co-living, I don't know that I would want one.
I talked to my lawyer. He said the number 2, I guess, cases or things that are brought up are related to pools. And I was like, that's all I got to hear. So I don't do pools.
And so how long have you been doing co-living to get to the 3 that you have now?
August of 2023. So relatively short.
Okay. So less than a year, 3 properties.
Yep.
Did you take a playbook page out of the financial firefighters thing and empty out retirement accounts?
I did. I did, actually.
Cool. So how did that go for you?
It's still going. So I'm also a private money lender, but that's not my primary goal. But that's how I started. I guess maybe should I talk about how I started or no?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll cover that. So what got you interested in it to even get started?
Taxes. I was at Intel for 23 years as an IT manager, and every time I climbed that ladder, taxes got worse and worse and worse. I was paying 44% on my bonuses, and I got upset. And so it's no coincidence that April of 2023, after taxes, I started. I read a book called Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. And then before April of 2023, I didn't know, I'm not financially literate, right? So I was just an IT guy, just kind of a geek, going into just doing my thing and living. We did well financially. And then I read that book, Tax-Free Wealth, who, by the way, Tom Wheelwright is the CPA for Robert Kiyosaki, which I didn't know who Robert Kiyosaki was. I'd never heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad until April of last year. And then that just catapulted me off. And so I started the private money lending to make a few dollars, but more than that, to learn. And so by August, I had learned enough to where I thought, and I'm still doing the private money lending to my repeat borrowers, but I'm not really advertising it. I guess I'm telling you now, but that was a way for me to get in and learn. I know it's a weird way to do it, but I was using my retirement funds. And then when I found my first deal, in the IT or my space, I'm I won't say methodical, but like proof of concept, right? Do your POC, run the numbers. If it makes sense, run a pilot. And so that's what I did. I ran a pilot. It worked out fantastic. And I was like, holy crap. So let's do another one. And so we bought another one in March. And then by accident, we bought another one because it was such a good deal. It was a word of mouth. It was another investor that got in trouble with a hard money loan, and I bailed him out. So it was a win-win. But yeah, I think back to your original question, that's how I got started, but sorry, I may have lost track there.
Oh, that's okay. So the what got you interested would be taxes, and
Taxes. Yeah.
Tom Wheelwright's great book. I also recommend anybody who checks out Robert Kiyosaki. Most people reference Rich Dad Poor Dad or How to Retire Young, Retire Rich. The most important book I think Kiyosaki's put out is Cash Flow Quadrant. As soon as you understand the four quadrants, and you realize the choices you make can move you to the quadrant that the government wants you in and rewards you for being in, because the government doesn't want employees, doesn't want self-employed, and it kind of wants businesses, but it still penalizes you for being a business. It wants investors. It wants people who put money to work, and you pay zero taxes. You can make almost $240,000 in profit and carry forward a loss if you own real estate. We say it often. It's like Congress is full of people who own real estate that keep making laws that benefit people who own real estate. It's so weird. All right, so that's what got you into it. How do you find the deals?
Right off the MLS. So actually, I took this from you, Dion. So I found you before I found most people, and then that's how I found Zuber was through you. But I found a bunch of real estate agents, and they still to this day send me their automatic listings. But I found a specific real estate agent who actually invests nice invests in co-living, and so that was a huge benefit. And the reason why is he gave me a lot of tips up front when we were looking at houses about the co-living. So I'll explain a little bit what I'm doing with my buy box is 2,000 square feet or better. And the reason that is I actually go in, buy the house, and then do construction. So we turn the common areas like the living room, the dining room, and in Arizona, the Arizona rooms into bedrooms. So we'll take a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath and turn it into an 8-bedroom, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
But yeah, and then one of them we found off market just through networking with other investors. And
Was that the third one?
the third one, yeah, it wasn't
So you've
planned.
established proof of concept. You got known in the area for doing it twice, being successful at it, and then hey, look, here's another deal for you.
Yeah, the
So
guy reached out to me out of nowhere. So
yep.
he was
I,
in
I
trouble.
love it. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of people when they're just starting out, they hear that that happens and they think, why doesn't it happen to me? Well, you don't have the first two. You don't have
Right.
the right terminology, the right vernacular to even have a conversation with somebody where they feel like bringing you a deal that you could be successful with. That's how you found it. How do you fund these? You said DSCR, but let's explain the funding for these.
Yeah, so the debt service coverage ratio is what I'm using. And the funds for these are coming out of my retirement account. So I leave, and I know this, some people will be like, oh, I don't have a retirement account. I get that, but some people do. So I keep the money in there, I lend it out, but when I find a deal that's worth liquidating, I run the numbers math wise. Because for me, I'm under 59 and a half. I've just turned 50. And like you started when you were 40. I'm starting when I was 49, 50, really late in the game, but at least I'm getting started. Um, I'll liquidate the amount needed for the down payment with the DSCR. And because I'm a junior, I'm considered a novice investor because I'm under 12 months, which sucks. I have to pay more. Like both of these houses, one of them I could have got away with 20% had I been in the game longer than 12 months, but I wasn't. So I got dinged and I was 25% down, which is fine because it's going into equity. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's still your money. It's
Still my
still there.
money,
It's just
right?
in the property, not the bank, right?
Right. And then the second one, the third one was also DSCR, and I had to put 30% down on that one because I don't know, things got tighter and tighter. If anybody's going out for loans right now, it is ridiculous. I've bought and sold my own personal homes over the years, and yeah, you sign some paperwork, but nothing like the last year. I mean, they go deep.
Yeah, lending fares change often, and they might adjust in 6 months and be easier. You never know. So you just jump through the hoops that they put in front of us. So that's how you find them, how you fund them. Let's talk cash flow. So you have three now. Let's say take your pie tie. So principal, interest, taxes, and insurance going out, setting aside for expenses, and paying those expenses like the cleaning service. What is the cash flow looking like with three co-living properties now, and how many units is that total?
24. Each is an 8-bedroom. So I did learn from the first one. I bought it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and I wanted to make it an 8-bedroom, 3-bath, but the third bath would have been $30,000. So I decided to just go with the 8-bedroom, 2-bath, and that one's working out. But after that, we started, everything else is 2.5 bath. That half bath is huge in co-living. So 2-bath with eight bedrooms is the minimum, like 4-to-1 ratio. But that half bath is now my minimum. My buy box is 2.5. So the cash flow, I think gross year, I have not to date since the beginning of the year had a full house. And I knew this. So I talked, my real estate investor was the third co-living house through this third-party manager in Arizona. So I got pretty lucky. He had some pretty interesting insights for me. And he says it's rocky for the first 4 months. Now I got lucky because my house filled in 12 days. I hit January and boom, it filled in 12 days. I was like 8 bedrooms in 12. That's pretty good. So the first month was an anomaly. I don't know why, timing, whatnot. But so in the 8 bedrooms, if you're fully occupied, you can expect, so at $200 a week is roughly what it works out to. If you did the math, it's like, say, 8 bedrooms, $200 a week, that's $6,400 gross a month. But that's if you're fully occupied. The way I run my numbers is I run every room at 200, even though some are at 240, some are at 230 a week, because I have a master bedroom, I have bigger rooms, those sort of things. But I run all the numbers at 200. That helps me with potential vacancy. But essentially, you can just figure gross, you're 6,400, even though it comes in 7,200, 7,000. But I got to pay property management and all that. So I have the numbers in front of me. On the first house is a little odd because it's a higher mortgage payment. My first house, I paid 2,900 pai tai. The next two are around 2,400. So they're a little cheaper with the more of a down payment. But at the end of the day, I think if you're looking for net, it's close to 2,000 net if you're fully occupied. So I think I've been around 1,800, 1,700 net a month, something like that. After
so
mortgage and everything, yeah, utilities.
Less than a year of investing, you've created over $1,000 a month in cash flow, even on worst case scenario where several rooms are vacant and you have some more expenses. That's a lot quicker than what I did. For me, it was 2 years to get the first property, and then 2 years to get the next property. So 4 years to get two. I think you've done a lot in a year. And I think before we hit record, you were talking a little bit about you don't want to make the same mistake that Mark Oshiro did, the financial firefighter, which he's been very transparent on himself, saying, yeah, I got 14 in 2 years. It was a lot. We had some evictions and some turnovers going on, and maybe I should have paced myself. I don't know that 3 is too many right away. I think lenders might start to look at it, might be too many until you have 1 or 2 tax returns with the rental income on there. So we've covered up everything to now. What does the next year look like?
Next year looks like, if this goes well, hopefully 2 more. I do want to kind of slow down a little bit because, I think you and Coach Carson and Lumberjack landlord told me, he says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And then I had to ask him what that meant because I got it, but then he explained it to me. And then Coach Carson, he said something to me that this should resonate with everybody. He said, if you go out, because he could see in my eyes, I know you had told me and Lumberjack told me, but I just wanted to go. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, guys. But he saw that. I love Coach Carson, by the way. I met him in Vegas, and he says to me, he says, look, let's say you went out tomorrow and bought 10 houses and you learned that you made a mistake, which I did, by the way. You just paid that mistake 10 times. Whereas if you bought 1 house, you avoided that mistake 9 times. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And in that vein, can I tell you a mistake I did make? I wasn't thinking about heat in Arizona, right? And I'm a numbers guy and I'm a data guy, and I had everything covered. So I thought I had all this stuff covered and everything was wonderful. And in January, I got my heat bill. Now, this is the first house I bought is a gas furnace house, which is not normal in Arizona. They have, the sump pumps or the other style, what just flips around and goes back. So I had figured my gas bill, it was about $19 a month in the summer. And so I just doubled it and thought, okay, $40, $50 a month. My January bill was $269 for gas. I was now crisis averted. Luckily enough, I called Southwest Gas and they said, "Oh yeah, you can." I could peanut butter it across the year, so it ended up being $25 a month, but it was a mistake nonetheless. And so that's why I think it's smart to go slow, learn these things, and then figure it out and go forward. Like the next house, I didn't put a dishwasher in because I learned that people are challenging with I'm trying to say this. They just leave food in there, ended up destroying the dishwasher. Garbage disposals, dishwashers, I take them out. I don't put them in. Those type of things. So then moving forward, I don't have to pay that, plumber or whoever to come out again and that sort of thing. So I'm learning as I go. So
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about you have property management in there. I think with co-living, unless maybe you're on site or close and you have a backbone and don't mind dealing with people, I would recommend. But you live in Oregon, right?
yeah, I
And you
live in
invest in
Oregon.
Arizona. So I would
Invest,
recommend property management investing at a distance too.
yeah. Well, the property management I have is just the acquisition, people, and finances. So any of the maintenance all still comes through me. And so luckily I've built enough of a team that I'm still looking for an electrician though, but I have a couple handymen, a couple GCs that I've done 2 different builds with. I've got a pretty good plumber. I've got, most of the people taken care of, but the electrician, I'm still I have people, but not a dedicated type of electrician. They're more handymanish.
So the way I found my electrician, I've got like 2 or 3 right now, because I'm a little more spread out with properties, is I go on Thumbtack and I hire somebody to do something really small. Get an
Yeah.
electrician to go and swap out a light, replace a receptacle or move a receptacle to see what their work is like, see how they interact with the tenant, see what their billing process is like, and then reach out and to have the conversation of, hey, this is what I have, 3 properties. It's 8 rooms each one, and I just need somebody that I can call and ask questions and hire you for future work, build that relationship that way. And I had a great relationship. So you were in the Army, right? And I
Yeah.
was in the Marines, and I had a guy that was local here. He was a Navy corpsman, which when you're in the Marine Corps, the Navy corpsman's your best friend, right? Where's the guy with the morphine, right? Everybody knows what he did.
Yeah.
And so he was a Navy corpsman that got out and became an electrician and did amazing work. And then he moved to Texas. So I had to do the same thing about 6 months ago, is go through and hire some electricians for some small things, see how the interaction went, look at their billing, and then look at their availability, and then kind of built 2 new relationships to make sure I'm covered going forward.
I stole that from you, or you taught me that. I use the Thumbtack app. That's how I found my plumber, actually.
Nice.
So I've taken a lot from your channel. You've taught me a lot that you didn't know, but you have.
Well,
So thank you.
it's the reason why I try to cover this stuff every time we make a video, is you never know what little bit of information is going to make somebody else's life better with what they're doing. Right. And you said you've been doing this for a year. So and you said off camera, you don't feel like you know everything, but you know enough to want to share, right? I absolutely don't know everything, and I have a ton to learn, but I'm happy to share what I figured out so far. And so, Jared, I put a link to your YouTube channel in the comments.
Oh,
So
thank
if
you.
people have questions and want to reach out and get to know Jared a little bit about co-living and everything else that you do, the link is right there. And I will also, for people in Futureland who aren't looking at the chat, pin a comment in the comment section with a link to Jared's YouTube channel, REI Jared. I think that's the name, right?
Yeah.
There you go. And I thank you for taking the time and coming out here and sharing this information with people. I love bringing in perspectives and strategies that I'm not doing, because there is no one right way to do this, but there's a one right way for everybody watching. And I think it's going to include some of the stuff you're doing.
Cool.
Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion and Jared talk. And now